This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? All right, here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. Broadcasting 2 hours today from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. So link to your instructors on the website, USAPrepares.com. And if you'd like to share the broadcast with friends and family, just go to USAPrepares.com. Podcasts are free. Converging threats are confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli. Alex is producing the broadcast at GCN in Minnesota. Today, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Hey, Rick, welcome.
Good morning. I know I'm not even awake yet, but that's all right. I was up until 10 o'clock last night doing Genesis Radio, so I was on Aaron Dakin's show.
Really. That's wonderful. I'm so glad that...
I'm doing a lot of Genesis. I'm not doing very much other radio. It's interesting. There's... some competition out
Rick,
there or something.
Well, Rick, Genesis is where it's at. We're where it's at. So I'm so glad that more of us here at Genesis are working with you. Rick, you sent me an email that I find absolutely fascinating, and there was a link to what's happening with the police confiscating property. Now, I know that is not physics, but it's really interesting what they're doing. They are actually pulling people over. They're searching their cars. They're saying, "Now this looks neat. This looks neat. Let's go downtown and let's examine exactly what you have in your car. By the way, do you have any drugs in here? Because we need to look. You mind if we look in your car? You mind if we search your trunk?" And that's they've done that, Rick. They've done that to my son. He was on Interstate 44, and there was a multi-jurisdictional task force. I'll tell you a story. It's really kind of neat. My son happens to be someone who is in the collecting business, and he likes very, very interesting things. And so he goes to coin stores, and he happened to be at this one coin store that was going out of business, and the store owner was selling these collection albums where you put pennies in them and nickels in them and quarters in them. So he bought all of them. He probably bought a couple cases of those coin collector albums, and we used to have those back in the 1960s. You collect the pennies over the years with the mint marks and so forth, and so he bought a couple cases of those, and then he bought some coin tubes. He bought cases and cases of tubes that you put coins in, pennies, nickels, dimes, those clear tubes. And then he bought some silver certificates. And the coin dealer had thousands of them. And they were $1 denominated silver certificates. So my son paid a little bit over $1 for each one. But there were 8,000 of them. So they were starting to load up my son's trunk. And the coin dealer said, "Shoot, we got to get something to put all these silver certificates in." So I found an old suitcase in the back, and he said, "This isn't, suitcase isn't worth anything, so let's just put these silver certificates in the suitcase." So they put that in the trunk. They put the coin tubes in the trunk. They put the coin albums in the trunk, and they put whatever else he bought in his trunk. And he's driving down 44 to show Mom and Dad, Interstate 44, to show us what he bought. And our son's a pretty young guy. He's in his 20s. And he goes to this multi-jurisdictional drug enforcement task force stop. They're stopping every single car on the interstate, every one. And they're these big guys with the body armor and the uniforms and so forth, and they're on top of the overpass, they're at the exit ramps, they're at the entrance ramps. I mean, they're stopping everybody. Nobody gets by. So it comes up to his turn, And he puts down his window, and the Homeland Security guy says to him, license and registration. So my son produces it, and he says, pull over. So my son goes from the lane he's in over to the side there, to the shoulder, and this big imposing guy with the body armor looks down through the window and says, "You're not doing anything wrong. You mind if I search your car?" My son says, "Well, that's a compound question. No, I'm not doing anything wrong, and no, you may not look in my car. You may not search my car." And they do a stare down for a while, and this Homeland Security guy says to him, "Mind if I look in your trunk?" My son says, "You may not look in my trunk unless you have a warrant." And so the Homeland Security guy and my son do a stare down, and my son is armed with a .38 Super, which is like a 1911 .45, because he rides around with sometimes he rides around with collectibles. And it's right there on the seat in plain view, which is absolutely perfectly legal. It's perfectly legal for him to carry it. And so they do a stare down, and nobody says anything. So my son looks up at him from the seat of his car, and he says, "Well, if I'm not under arrest, I'm leaving." Smiles, and slowly drives off. Now, here's the point, Rick.
Yeah, ignorance is in all places. There are people that are afraid, even in law enforcement. They're afraid. I wouldn't want to be law enforcement, as I used to think I might have, because it's a creepy place out there now. And who knows what you're going to run into. And the laws are so convoluted that there's all kinds of things that can be done and played as a game. And why? What's the purpose of manipulating and if they're there to serve and protect, which is, the logo they have on the police cars here, why would they try to intimidate? Why?
Well, not only that, let's say my son didn't do what he did. Let's say he said, "Well, no, I'm not doing anything wrong," or if he said,
they'd gone through that,
"You're not doing anything,"
and that's where the ignorance would have come in, because the guy would have seen that as contraband, as opposed to collectibles, as opposed to totally within his rights, and that's why he had the gun out in the first place, etc. It's just it's a brave new world. It's a brave.
Yeah. Now, I don't want the class to think that my son pulled out his gun because it was being stopped. My son was just riding around with his.
He had it out just like he did in Springfield or Lebanon. I mean, it is his right. Mm-hmm. And of course, your son was carrying more than $10,000 worth of contraband. I mean, contraband. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for.
Well, yeah, it was silver certificates, which was printed by the Bureau of Printing and Engraving. I mean, it was all government printed stuff. However, it appeared. It had the appearance of what you might see on TV, with a suitcase, full of illegal money or drug money.
And I know the thing goes down to, does the man even understand what he's doing and what he's really looking for? It's I don't know. It's I don't blame them, and at the same time, I don't condone it. Speed traps, whatever, to support small townships. We have them here in Oregon, and they're like kangaroo courts. I literally came to court. They gave me a ticket once for speeding, and it was impossible because my transmission was out. I was limping into town. I couldn't get up over 35 miles an hour, and they were claiming I was at 45 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, and I brought of that not being possible with my car, and the judge dismissed it. I ended up going to Portland and filing a complaint. It was essentially useless. I, ended up in a kangaroo court, literally speaking. That That was Shady Cove, Oregon, by the way. And Shady Cove is just like it sounds. It's got speed traps that are illegal.
Yeah. Well, the whole point is that when you get stopped, if you have cash, where'd you get that cash? I mean, these guys can.
It's none of their business,
can make up.
Actually.
Right. Well, the idea is, hey, you guys printed this up, and I just bought some of it, and I'm going to sell it, to people who want it. Not everybody wants 8,000 pieces, so if people want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can buy it. By the way, Rick, we are having a massive outage. So if I'm dropping off, we must be touching a nerve here, because this is the third time that here it goes again. This is the third time that we're having dropouts on the transmission from Missouri to Minnesota. So if I drop, Alex,
there's coronal mass ejections going on right now that might be partly to blame on that. Who knows? We are experiencing sunspots.
Okay, Rick, you've been in the studio with me, and you've seen these screens that I have in front of me, and I got these this bar graph. I've got this great big red bars that say extreme loss of packets. So that's what's happening. So Rick, I just wanted to share. I just wanted to share that little note about what the police are doing. And when I was doing some investigative reporting in Virginia for 2 weeks, one of the things I was looking at is, what are the police doing? They seem to be everywhere. And I've heard these reports, so I decided to visit some friends and family and do some reporting while I was there, do some education. And there was a person who the police came to their house. And I'll do more detail when I do the full report. But to make the story short, the police came to this person's house, and they saw a firearm. A perfectly legal firearm in this person's house. And the cops took it. And so the person went to court and said they should not have taken it. They should not have taken it. And the judge said, you're entitled to that back. Wrote down on a court document that was to be returned to the owner. And I'll tell you what happened when we come back on the other side of this break. Fascinating. And I'll tell you some other things that I saw when I was there. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, Vin Finelli, USAPrepares.com. Then we're going to talk about Fukushima. We'll be right back. So, Rick, when I was in Northern Virginia, the cops... the county cops took this person's gun from this person's house, and it was a protection firearm. It was a small handgun. It wasn't big. It was a small handgun, and it was for personal protection. Well, the cops saw it, and they said, three cops show up at this one person's house, and so they took the gun, and so this person went to court to get it back, and the judge said they shouldn't have taken it. And what's going on? So here's the court order to get you your firearm back. All you do is just bring this to the sheriff's office, and so this person went to the sheriff's office, and there were all kinds of delays. Well, the evidence locker is closed, the person's not here, the person's on a day off, on and on. 3 days. 3 days go by. It's got some more packet losses. 3 days went by. So I decided I was going to help out. And I thought the easiest way to do this was if I had a notarized document that the property was mine. So I went to the sheriff's office, and I said, we'd like this back. This is my property. Here's a bill of sale for the handgun. And I got a little bit of a runaround. And I said, I'll tell you what. You guys know what I do. I'm going to talk about this. And I'm not leaving until I get it. And here's what I'd like. I would like the firearm and the cartridge that was in the chamber, and all the cartridges in the magazine and the magazine. And it was in a sealed box, and I said, well, let's open this together. They finally produced it after many trips. They finally produced it in a sealed evidence box, sealed, taped. And I said, let's open this together. They said, no, you can't open it here. You'll have to take it off the property. Took it off the property, and it's missing the magazine and all the cartridges. And it was tough getting that back. And I said, I'm not leaving until I get it all. And reluctantly, they produced another bag with the cartridges and the magazine. It happened to be a German firearm, very well crafted. And Rick, the bottom line is, I believe, now I can't prove this, I believe that there is a bounty that the federal government is paying to local police offices for confiscation of firearms. I believe, and I don't know what
that may actually be not out of the ball game. You know, there's the police department here where I live is under budgeted. They have over the years lost this community support, so the jail system is overflowed, and they're letting criminals loose on purpose to try to scare us into increasing budgets. And my guess is that's partly one of the areas that they're trying to explore is how to develop other sources of revenue, incomes to support the police departments.
Yeah, I believe that. And these guys don't walk around anymore. They ride around. They ride around in vehicles that are so much nicer than the ones that we ride around in. They've got these dark windows, air conditioning. And I swear, you know, when Mrs. Finelli and I were on this over 2,000-mile round trip to the East Coast, I didn't see a single police officer help a single person with an automobile problem, whether it be a flat tire or whatever. I didn't see a single cop help anybody. Really.
Yeah.
You know, they went out there with it.
That used to be the way it was. It's all quite different now because of the economy, because of budget cuts, and the need of everybody for, you know, it's going to get worse, too, by the way. It is. The financial situation, I have a couple of my listeners that listen to you have become lead scouts for me, sending me, like Joey and Grace Lauren, they'll send me stuff, and it's interesting just how bad it's getting.
It's really true. Rick, you probably saw in Alex hit the button. You probably saw the bumper sticker I have in the studio right next to me. It says, fire Greg Burris, 417-864-1001. He's the city manager in Springfield, and I used to give these bumper stickers out at our expos and meetups and so forth. And I'll tell you what happened when I called him. We'll be right back. So, Rick, several months ago, I was on this campaign, actually for almost a year, to get fluoride out of the water in Springfield, Missouri. You and I and Dr. Norm Shealy and a bunch of us were on this campaign. But when I was on the afternoon broadcast at 3 o'clock in the local market, I was hammering the city manager, Greg Burris. And I would tell people, here's his number, give him a call, tell him he's fired for poisoning us. And anyway, so I really, I brought to light the problem of fluoride. And I would call this guy up before the broadcast, and he was never there. He was always out of his office. He was in a meeting. He was at lunch, but he was never available for me to talk to. So I would go on the air, and I'd say, gee, I called Greg Burris today, and he was at a meeting. Give him a call. Maybe you can get through. And I'd give out his number. And this went on for months, and I was making no progress, but they were really getting hammered with all these calls. And so finally I decided I'll give him a call. I called him one morning, and I said to Kathy Hart, his secretary, it looks like, wow, got another massive packet loss. So I called Greg Burris' secretary, Kathy Hart, and I said, Kathy, is Greg available? This is Vin Finelli. And she said, no, he's not in today. And I said, geez, I needed to get his input on the bumper stickers. And she said, the bumper stickers? And I said, yeah, the only thing I can come up with is fire Greg Burris, 417-864-1001. And I was wondering what his thoughts were. So she was shocked at what I was saying. So that afternoon he called me. He said, what do you want? And I said, well, we'd like fluoride out of the water by tomorrow morning, and we'd like our taxes reduced by 50%, and that would be a good start. And Rick, here's what he said. He said, do you realize that our tax revenue is down so much that we might not have enough money to put gasoline in police cars? We might not have enough money to put gasoline in police cars. I said, Greg, that's great. That's great. That means those guys are going to start walking around, and they'll be protecting and serving rather than sniping with their radar guns. I love it. He was furious with me. So anyway, that's the point. They don't have the revenue, Rick. You're right. They don't have the revenue.
Yeah, they're hurting just like everybody else.
So you were right on the money. Right. Rick, let's talk about Fukushima.
You really don't really understand what's going on, but right now, today, this morning, Fukushima is so bad that I would say there should be a global event alert. And I would not eat anything from Japan. They're right now talking about the evacuation of Tokyo as of this morning. 40% of the kids in and around Fukushima, when it went off, now have thyroid cancer. They are experiencing mutations in the plants and insects in Tokyo, which is further south. And right now, I would say that most of Japan is dead. I would say that and the media hasn't even begun. I can talk to you about the measurements. We talk in millisieverts, sieverts, which is a radiation level dosage. When the estimated total exposure when 3 Mile Island site in Pennsylvania during 1979 went off, it was only 1 millisievert, or even less. And right now, the peak during March 15th when Fukushima went off, it was 400 millisieverts. And the half-life of some of these, like cesium-137 and strontium-90, some of the other things, it's unbelievable. And we're leaking today so much radiation into the sea, I would say that nothing from the Pacific Ocean is now safe. I hate to put it to you, and I don't want to be doom and gloom, but the whole thing is a massive cover-up, and nobody is talking about it.
Rick,
it's like that serious. And this is me as a physicist saying, my good God, what are we going to do about that? I notice that nobody in the United States is talking about it, Congress-wise. They're all worried about, housing starts or whatever, but they're not talking about the radiation going into the Pacific Ocean right now. I am going to say that there is a possibility that the thing could get much worse because Reactor 1 now is having some serious problems in leakage and the amount of groundwater going into the ocean. We're talking in thousands of gallons a day. Thousands of gallons a day.
Rick, I mentioned
one sievert, by the way, is equivalent to 100 rem, which is a dose unit of X-rays or gamma ray radiation. That means 400 X-rays is what the people at Fukushima experienced when it first went sideways. And right now, it's over 2 X-rays each day for the last year.
Rick,
you tell me that's going to affect your physical body.
I mentioned that this was the worst man-made disaster since Noah's flood the day after it happened.
No, I think it's even worse than that. I think that this is possibly the worst in history. And nobody is talking about it.
Rick,
nobody's doing anything about it.
Yeah, and there's nothing that we can do other than talk about and alert people and tell them what...
Chernobyl was only 31 millisieverts. Now, we're talking about 400 for Fukushima. We're talking at least more than one order of magnitude worse than Chernobyl. And Chernobyl is uninhabitable. And there are still people living in and around Fukushima. And now Tokyo is showing massive radiation damage in their plants and the amount of thyroid epidemic that's occurring in Japan. And so, it's nobody's talking about it. I don't understand.
Rick, I'm not going to mention the name, but you know this person. And this person was at our Get Prepared Expo. He's been to all of them, all of our expos, all 6 of them. And his wife is in the medical field. And his wife noticed that there are a lot of babies being born right now with chromosomal damage.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. It has absolutely impacted our gene pool.
Mm-hmm. Rick, we reported this on Tuesday, that right here on Genesis, that this doctor has noticed this, and other doctors have noticed it, and we talked about it at the meetup on Monday. And these are the kind of things that we have breaking news that we report to the meetup group. And what happens is, as you mentioned, you have scouts. That's right. We have scouts, and they find these things, and they share them with us, and then we share them with others. Well, this is really serious because this is an unprecedented type of event, chromosomal damage in newborns, and it is being attributed to Fukushima. Real serious.
Nobody's taking responsibility for it either, and I haven't heard any of the cleanup protocols that are now supposed. This is, with what's going on today, I am surprised there is not a grassroots-based movement to stop nuclear energy in the United States. We did it on the West Coast. The Trojan plant is closed, it's down, it's been dismantled. But even still, Hanford is still leaking radiation into the Columbia River. It's, imagine being in Japan and wanting to leave. I don't have exact ideas on what's going to happen, but with the coronal mass ejections that we're having right now, which, by the way, was what caused the original Fukushima thing. It caused a 7.4 earthquake, and later the 9.4 was a result of an aftershock on March 11th. And I have to tell you, by March 16th, the radiation levels were so lethal as I'm surprised there are people still alive from all of this. I'm surprised. And what a terrible way to die.
Rick, I need to share this with the class. You may be hearing breakups of Rick's voice and my voice. I can't tell if Rick's breaking up, but I can tell you that I'm seeing delays that are blacking out my voice for 4, 5, 6 seconds at a time. So if Rick, if you don't hear me, I will be reconnecting.
Yeah, you're coming in 4x4 right now, so you're good.
Okay, all right. So Rick, this is really serious. There's no question about it. Now, let me share. We've been talking about this for over a year, you and I.
Yeah.
And let's share with the class what they can do, and I'll tell you what I've done. Rick, when this went off, one of the first things I did was I bought what I believe to be a lifetime supply of butter. Bought cases and cases of butter, and it's in the freezer. I'm talking, I don't know, maybe 50 pounds of butter, easily. No, actually, way more than that. Excuse me. Maybe 100 pounds of butter, easily. And I I bought a lot of grain and put it in 5-gallon buckets and packed it in nitrogen. So that's, wheat, red, hardy red and hardy white, so we can make bread. And I bought a lot of tea. Those are the things that, I wanted to have because I was concerned about the cows eating the grass that was radioactive, and I absolutely believed that the radiation was airborne. It was landing all over America, regardless of what the reports were. I believed it.
And there's evidence on that, by the way. Yeah.
And Rick, right now in the studio, I have a dosimeter. It's made by Bendix. It's a civil defense device that was made in the probably the 1960s. I'm looking through it right now, and I'll tell you what it reads. When we come back, I'll tell you what it reads because I need to get away from the microphone in order to read this. Look through it. I'll tell you how many millirentogens it says, and it keeps climbing every day. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, Vincent Finelli, USAPrepares.com. Hey, Rick. I just got a text message, and I called one of our instructors. Absolutely startling information. This is so startling, I forgot what I was going to say when I was going to come back. Do you remember what I was going to say?
No, but we were talking about Fukushima. That's fine. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. Well, let me share this with you. This took the color right out of my face. I'm very serious. I got a text during the break from one of our esteemed instructors. I'm very serious. This man, and this man is right on the money with everything he said in the past. He's always been right. Comes to the meetups, been to all the expos. He says, and I confirm this. I just talked to his wife a couple seconds ago during the break. They go to a church that has about 400 members just outside of Springfield, Missouri. As of yesterday, there are 54 people out of 400 diagnosed with cancer in their church. Now, this is not a church that specializes in cancer. This is just an across-the-board typical church that you might see in the United States. 54 people in this church of 400 members diagnosed with cancer. 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 40s, 50s. These are young ages to be diagnosed with cancer. Combine that with the doctor that I was talking about that reported that and this is in a Springfield area hospital where they're delivering babies that have chromosomal damage. So we have chromosomal damage. We have 54 out of 400 with cancer, and these
more
are
than 10%. Yeah,
Rick, this is serious. It's really serious.
Well,
2 years old, Rick.
That's why nascent iodine and some of these other bioremediatal foods are going to become so important in your medicine chest. You got to pull some of these weird metals out of your body.
Rick, I remember just after Fukushima went off, there was a church that was sending their band to perform at some event in Japan. And I said, are you kidding me? You're going to Japan? Well, yeah, there's a competition. Are you kidding me? You're going to Japan? Do you know what happened in Japan? Yeah, but it's been prearranged and planned for a long time, and we got the tickets, and we're going to fly over to Japan and do this, bring the children, and they're going to compete. Unbelievable, Rick.
Well, yeah, the aircraft that are coming in from Asia right now have to be cleaned before they allow passengers to reboard those aircraft. That when the ones coming in from Asia into LAX, the planes are actually, and you can notice this is on the media, they're removed from sight and then they're scrubbed down. The concern I have is where is the water going from the cleaning of this radioactive particulate that attracts to the metal hull and makes that aircraft somewhat like a microwave oven.
Rick, the half-lives, would you just take a couple minutes or a minute and describe to us, the class, what is meant by a half-life? So when you look at radioactivity...
Half the lethal dose of it, that means it's half as dangerous is what they call half-life. That means if this is lethal at this point, it will be okay. For strontium-90, it's usually 8 days to drop down to 50%. For iodine, it's 30 years. For plutonium, we're talking 100,000 years.
So, Rick, the half-life of plutonium, it will be half as lethal as it is today in 100,000 years from today. So that's what a half-life means. Half as dangerous, class, in that length of time that is the half-life. Richard Allen Miller and I are going to be back. We're going to talk more about what's going on with Fukushima.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? This is hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, and if you'd like to get to his website, oak-publishing.com, oak-publishing.com. That's oak-publishing.com. Rick, just to recap, during the previous hour, I think it was so important, we were talking about a doctor who is related to one of our instructors. And this doctor is in the baby aisle of the hospital where they deliver babies. And she's a surgeon. And she reported that we are now experiencing chromosomal damage in newborns, in babies. And Rick, we got a report from one of our instructors during the last hour that a church of 400 members, as of yesterday, a church that has 400 members in the Springfield community, or just outside of Springfield, 54 have been diagnosed with cancer. 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 20s, 40s, and 50-year-olds diagnosed with cancer. Very, very young to have cancer. And many of us believe that this is related to the radiation that is still coming out of Fukushima. And this is a General Electric manufactured and designed nuclear reactor in Japan, Fukushima, Japan. So we're talking about, Rick, you mentioned that 40% of the children in the Fukushima area now have thyroid cancer.
Oh yeah, that's and that number is conservative.
Yeah, and Rick, you know, the Japanese government
now that are showing it, not adults.
Right.
It usually takes, in thyroid cancer, it usually takes a minimum of 20 years to show up.
And we're seeing it within 2 years.
That's less than 2 years, yes.
Rick, you know, when Chernobyl, and people said that, oh, you know, this is nothing compared to Chernobyl. And we said, are you kidding?
No, this is in orders of magnitude above that of Chernobyl. And Chernobyl is a wasteland right now. People do not have a clue yet how bad Fukushima is right this moment. And nobody is asking questions or making statements or doing anything about the cleanup. They haven't even accepted the protocols yet. Their one suggestion now is to try to surround the whole thing with ice because it's non-flowing water. That's crazy.
Yeah, I've never seen ice that wasn't susceptible to melting. I've never seen that. Is there such a thing, Rick?
Well, probably, but I haven't seen it either. No. There probably is. There probably has some mineral or salt that you can put into it to keep it from melting it at normal temperatures. This is, the amount of radiation going into the sea every minute is affecting everything.
Rick, I don't want to belabor the point, but I'd like to say it for those who are new to the class. Freshman Chemistry 101, the professor had a quart jar in front of the classroom. It's a very large classroom, about 550 seats, and I couldn't even see the jar from where I sat in this theater. And he held it up and he said, "This is red dye." And he said, "We're going to pour it in the ocean, and we're going to stir it around, and we're going to make it, mix it up so that it goes everywhere, every ocean, because they're all connected." He said, "Then we're going to take this other empty quart jar, and we're just going to scoop out a quart of water from somewhere, anywhere, top, bottom, left, right, north, south, doesn't matter, anywhere in the ocean, because we mixed up that red dye." He said there'll be at least one atom of red dye in this quart jar. That's how small atoms are. Now, that's just a quart. A quart is nothing compared to what is leaking into the ocean off the coast of Japan. All the oceans are connected. Even, Rick, that... months and maybe half a year ago, there was a barge that showed up on the California coast that was wreckage from Japan. It floated across the ocean to California, and it was radioactive. And it had radioactive...
Yeah, it's actually, if you want, it's 300 ton of radioactive water into the ocean daily. And that's been happening. That's on Natural News. You can go to Mike Adams, the health ranger. Fukushima is now in a state of emergency, leaking 300 ton of radioactive water into the ocean daily. That's today.
Rick, Matt Stein, a good friend of yours and ours, has been on the air with us, and he said, and this was like a year ago, he said it would take years to develop the technology to build the robots that could withstand the radiation so that the robots would operate in this extreme radioactive environment so that they could do the repairs necessary to just start containing the radiation.
Yeah, the solid-state physics that would be required, the chips to remove and signal to servos and things of that nature would be burned out in minutes. We're not even talking about hours or days. Within minutes, the computer chips are dead on arrival. There's no way we can go in there. And so there have been some kamikazes, people that have sacrificed their life to go in and try to turn off or shut certain kinds of valves. They're dead. You don't hear anything about them. And it's continuing as of today. My strongest recommendation would be that every single person hearing this news report today contact their congressman to start a program against to close down nuclear reactor plants in their area. The Madrid fault lines and some of the other thing are just, it's crazy. We do not have any nuclear reacting plants on the West Coast anymore. They're all closed down. Why are you not closing yours down? It's quite obvious that a movement needs to start on a grassroots basis, and it starts with individuals writing to congressmen right now, right here, right now, doing it. That's the only way it's going to stop.
And Rick, there should be a international outrage about what Japan has done to the
and there has been none of that. They bow their heads and they're in deep shame. They haven't committed suicide like the samurai used to do, but it's next because what has happened is a complete denial on what is actually going on. Nobody is coming forth and saying precisely how bad it really is. And it's bad enough that I'm going to rant like I am. It is that bad.
General Electric designed that nuclear reactor. They should be on the forefront of fixing this problem. And they used to have I believe they had a marketing slogan, GE, we bring good things to light.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Rick, from our perspective, we know that one atom of plutonium in our lungs is a death sentence.
That is correct. And actually, you can show, there are studies that show where individual particulate matters have fallen from Fukushima in Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan that have caused massive mutations in specific plants directly related to Fukushima. That means part of your church got inoculated.
Rick, when Chernobyl went off, there was a massive cover-up about how bad that was. And many, many years later in Parade magazine, there was an article, and they showed a deformed horse that had just been born with 8 legs. And somewhere on the farm, I've got a copy of that. I've kept it. I just don't know exactly where it is, but I do have it. And it was in Parade magazine. That's that weekly news magazine that's an insert in the Sunday papers all over the country. So I'm not the only one who's seen that. But there it was, and it was a birth defect as a result of the radioactive debris that came out of the Chernobyl explosion. And Rick, what they did in the Soviet Union was they had downwinders. The downwinders property was contaminated with radiation. So instead of quarantining the area, what they did was they built a computer system to make sure that the cows that were slaughtered for meat that ate the radioactive grass, that everybody got their fair share, Rick. And that's what's happening here.
Radiation in Japan is so bad, they are actually now discussing the evacuation of Tokyo, creating a secondary, FEMA camp, if you will, for 10 million in the prefect of Tokyo. It's unbelievable.
Rick, I said this before. People thought I was crazy when I said I'd like to get your opinion on this. Firestone Tire Corporation was purchased by Bridgestone. Bridgestone is a Japanese company, and a lot of our tires come from Japan. Now, if they're manufacturing tires in a radioactive environment and the rubber that's used in these tires, in the manufacture of these tires, is radioactive, and we drive on these tires, and those radioactive particles are embedded in the rubber, and the rubber gets worn off as we drive down the road. I mean, we start out with brand new tire tread, and after 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 miles, our tires are bald, so that rubber became airborne at some point, or it became embedded in the road surface, and it got washed in downstream into our potable water supply. If you look at all that, Rick, is there a concern that we're bringing radiation from Japan in our tires through Bridgestone and the companies that make tires in Japan? Is that a concern? Can we talk about that when we come back? And I remember what I was going to mention before about the dosimeter, and I'll mention that too. Let's talk about the tires and radiation in the rubber compounds when we come back. Richard Allen Miller. We'll be right back. Yesterday, we mentioned that in Egypt, there were less than 100 killed in the conflict between the government and the people. And we said that those numbers were low, less than 100, and we expected that there'd be larger numbers. Well, today, the numbers are at least 5 times that dead. At least 525 dead, and about 40 times that wounded or injured. Almost 4,000 almost 4,000 wounded or injured. And what's happening is the government is clashing with the people. Bulldozers, armored vehicles, assault weapons, tear gas, and riot guns, black face masks, black uniforms, black boots, black billy clubs. And the people are so outraged they even pushed an armored police vehicle right off a bridge with the police in the bridge, in the vehicle. Pushed it right off a 50-foot bridge. Police were in it, and obviously they were injured. So you think that's only going to happen in Egypt with the things that are going on in this country? I would suggest that you consider thinking about how soon that'll be in our backyard. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. oak-publishing.com, oak-publishing.com. And one of the things that I mentioned before was that I have this civil defense meter in the studio with me, and I've had it for quite a while. I bought it from Craig Douglas, and it keeps increasing in what it's saying the exposure, the cumulative exposure is. It's up to 23 millirentigens. And I just keep this in the studio with me. So I've got a couple of them, and the most sensitive one is the one in millirentigens, and it's up to 23, Rick.
Yeah,
so
there's
it keeps climbing, not every day.
In the United States, where you can go online and see what the daily exposure ratio is and how it is increasing across the board. But some of that's from our sun. You know, the heliosphere is heating up. Mm-hmm. There's global warming on Mars. All of this is related to gamma rays and being emitted from the sun. So, you know, some of it is natural, some of it is not.
Well, Rick, my question before we went into the break was tires manufactured in Japan. Could they contain radiation or radioactive
fact, I personally
components?
No longer eat anything from Japan, including the rice, other kinds of things. If I'm going to eat rice, it'll be from the United States. Even then, it's semi-suspect. But I don't eat anything from Japan anymore. In fact, candidly, I'm surprised how Japan still exists as a continent. It's a tragedy. And General Electric is not...
Yeah, and I don't understand why... I don't understand that. I don't understand why there isn't worldwide pressure being brought to bear on General Electric. I don't understand. It makes no sense to me. Those guys...
not been ordered to do so. That's you and me ordering them to do so. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Well, we can start right here. And maybe we should start posting on the website
close down all
the
your
people whom we should concentrate on
That's a good place to start. You know, there was never any long-term plan for the removal of spent plutonium rods. Why is that? In the designing
I have never started
of reactors, there was never in place any long-term plan for the removal of spent plutonium. They just
Rick,
made it.
You and I did. You and I were involved in science fair projects at an early age. Now, here's the question I have for you. Can you imagine either you or me or anybody else embarking on a science fair project? And so we make this science fair project, we enter it into a science fair with the knowledge that there's no way to dispose of this science fair project that we made. There's no way. It will be deadly forever. But we're going to make it anyway? Rick, did you ever think of doing anything like that? I didn't. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, Vin Finelli. We're talking about Fukushima. It's deadly. Red alert. #1 trending topic on TalkStream. Class, the Fukushima situation is one of the biggest lies ever told. Lies of omission, lies of commission. Here's another one. Just made the news just now. Now, in Freehold Township, New Jersey, there's a mall, and it's called the Freehold Raceway Mall. At the entrance to this mall, they have installed a license plate scanner. And the purpose that they say is it's a counterterrorism measure. It's the first to be installed at a major shopping mall in the state of New Jersey, the Garden State. I've been to that mall. This is ridiculous. So this is just... Rick, I'm sorry for the segue into that, but gee whiz, license plate scanners, don't go to the mall.
Yeah, I have an interesting thing to share. I've been contacted by Hollywood. Several different projects ongoing right now, one of which is a writer who is doing a what they call a pilot on my life. And it's going to be about the discoveries I've made as a scientist working in paranormal phenomena. And the first story the pilot is going to be about the discovery of what Eisenhower had said, beware of the military complex. In 1970, I discovered a joint manned expedition to Mars with our primary enemy, the Soviet Union. Now, that was in 1968. That was a false flag. It was not real. It was not happening. It was a way to manipulate the world in terms of military expenditures and the directions that we went. This is approximately 4 years after they stormed Antarctica to take out the Nazi base, which was another false flag that nobody ever discovered. The take on this is not going to be like Ghostbusters. It's just going to show this young scientist, me, discovering what I discover each time I went in to study something unrelated. And the fact that it has been held in close disclosure. I mean, how many people realize that the Soviet Union, the Berlin Wall, was all a false flag? I had no idea, and yet, what does that mean, and what are the implications today? And that is going to be the take of this new pilot that they're going to do called Spook Central. And I have to tell you, there are things going on around us that nobody is giving us any idea at all. We are being directed like lemmings. This is why I write on the new directions of mind control. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in Lebanon and the class that I gave on that and the defenses that I gave on how to protect yourself, at least the first line level of defenses. These were basically the original protocols I developed for Navy SEALs to make them Supermen. Today, they're essential.
Rick, I'm so glad you're doing this. I'm delighted to know you. I really am, because it's so important that we get this information out. We are being lied to every turn.
Board. And for what purpose? And what is the full intent of why they would not give full disclosure to us about Fukushima, for example? Why? Because the thing is so horrible as to cause massive global panic. And it absolutely should. And nobody is talking about it. I mean, even if you go into the big shows of George Norrie and Alex Jones, they're not talking about it on this kind of level. The full implication of what's going on is so unreachable as to make me wonder, why are they doing this? Now, here's where it gets really interesting. I have some friends that are actively involved with remote viewing. It's part of military stuff. And they are telling me, in the remote viewing that they're now seeing, is that there is a massive revolt on the colony on Mars right now going on, and that it's all about genetics and the implication of contaminating the genome. Now, you tell me what that brings to your mind right now. Because, of course, we're on Mars. How could we not be? How could aliens not exist? They're part of our imagination, and imagination is reality. Scientific American just came out with an article just this month on how your imagination can increase your physical abilities to the point of paranormal. It's in print. There it is. You have the ability to make changes. It's time to do it now.
Rick, let me see if I understand what you're saying. So they're saying that, hey, you guys on planet Earth absolutely destroyed and polluted your own planet, your genome. You're in the business of rapid, accelerating self-destruction. So then you come over here to Mars, and you're screwing that up. Knock it off. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct. And the revolt that's going on right now is on a one-by-one personage with genome worry. You know, what they're doing is messing with our genome and changing our DNA with these chemistries that are getting into the food system and our environment. They are absolutely having effect. Now, the excuse that might be used is, quote, there are too many people on Earth, end quote. Who makes those decisions? It's not military. It's above military. And there's something else going on that none of us have actually really begun to discuss, and yet, as a scientist, I see it clearly. There is a manipulation of changing and mutating the human race into lemmings. It's crazy, turning us into Walmart shoppers. The obesity that I see in our country today is alarming. I mean, 1 in 3 people I see on the streets in Oregon right now are literally not fat, obese. Now,
Rick,
what do you think that all means?
Rick, you mentioned that they're saying that there are too many of us. And, I agree, and I'll tell you why. Some of those that are too many of us are those who are in the business of refining uranium and plutonium and spreading it around the planet to kill the rest of us. Those are the ones that are too many of us. Those are the evil people. And those are these guys that fly around, they jet set around the planet, burning all kinds of fuel, polluting the environment, consuming oxygen with these massive fires of these jet engines and rockets that were blasting everywhere, and detonating sound weapons in the ocean, killing all kinds of ocean life. Those are the guys that are too many.
Okay, well, I challenge you to tell me who is involved and in charge and paying for chemtrails. We in Oregon right now have a massive, out-of-control set of forest fires. It has affected our atmosphere and the light and the sun and the color of the cloud. And yet, today, there it is, a chemtrail. Where and why is that?
Rick, you wonder who listens to this broadcast. I'll tell you a couple things I've noticed. I've noticed that I've used some terminology that is specific. I just had a drop out there. I said, you wonder who listens to this broadcast. And I use some terminology that is specific and original to this broadcast. A couple days later, I'll hear Rush Limbaugh use that same terminology. And,
well, yeah, of course, there are people that lurk and don't actually disclose, and that is, what is their intent?
Mm-hmm. Let me share something with you.
The misinformation on the radio and on the media and TV is unbelievable. There are very few people that actually lived the 50s, the 60s, and in the 70s like I did. And I'm here to tell you that the kinds of information that I see being disclosed on Coast to Coast, some of the other radio stations, makes me wonder what their agendas are and why are they doing that. I'm going to be very pointed at some point because it's a fiduciary responsibility as a real scientist. Someone's got to be accountable.
Rick, you can disclose whatever you want. No holds barred. Just no profanity.
Well, I don't want to get shot, and I don't want to be blackballed. What I want is to achieve my true rank in the file of systems in terms of where I belong on this whole thing, because nobody's calling it right.
Hey, Rick, I've been blackballed. Let me share this with you and with the class. I've been blackballed in the Springfield community. No broadcaster from any Springfield radio station will return my calls, answer my calls, return my emails. I have been absolutely, positively blackballed in this market. So here's what happens. So, you go to the next level. So, I was on just a 1-hour program 5 days a week on a big station, same one Limbaugh is on in Springfield. So I got thrown off there. Now, they claim that I didn't renew my contract. Actually, they would not renew my contract. So it's semantics. But here's the point. I am now getting calls from radio people that are saying, hey, would you like a whole station and put your friends on the whole station? Rick, I've got 2 offers right now to go live 24 hours a day with my friends. So we may actually do that. We may actually take this broadcast and build a radio station in Springfield where we put some GCN people on Springfield 24 hours a day. It'll be an affiliate of GCN. Can you imagine that? Going from 1 hour a day to 24 hours a day? Talking about this? They caused a problem because they picked on us. And we just don't give up. So, Rick, yes, we have been blackballed. And when you say the kind of things that you say, expect to be blackballed. Alex, would you please get our caller's information? I'll call that caller back. I can't take the call right now. Class, I mentioned that you never know who's listening, and I want to share a couple things with you very quickly. One of our instructors, John Reagan, sent me an email several minutes ago, and he said he ran the numbers. John Reagan is the Financial State of the Union author. He's been on the air with us many times at the meetups and at the expos. He said he ran the numbers, 300 tons of radioactive waste per day is about 75,000 gallons, and that's over 26 million gallons a year. Okay, that's John Reagan. Now, I also mentioned that another instructor contacted us about the 400 members in a church that they attend, and 54 are diagnosed with cancer. Okay, I mentioned that. Now, another one of us,
by the way, thank you, John, for doing that calculation. It's important that people get the full picture of just exactly how bad Fukushima is. That does it.
All right. Rick, you're not going to believe this, but seriously, I'm not, class, I am not kidding about this. Pay attention to exactly what I'm saying, and get a pencil and paper right now, and write this down. I am not kidding. Okay. During the broadcast, I got an email from one of our students, and he said, "Here's the phone number for General Electric. I'm going to give you that phone number in just a minute." During the last break, I called him up. It is corporate headquarters for General Electric. I'm going to give you the corporate headquarters. I asked to speak to the CEO 3 minutes ago. Okay, I got to Jeffrey Immelt's office. I got to. Well, I did. I really did. And I asked to talk. Well, I asked to talk to him. I would have put him on the air right then and there. But he's in a meeting. He's in a meeting. I actually believe it, because when you talk to these guys, they are serious. They are really serious. They're professional. And I said, no, I want to talk to the CEO. And I was very polite, and I said, would you like him to call you back? And I said, well, no, I'll call him back. So Jeffrey Immelt is available. He is. Boy, we just got a blackout on my end. He's reachable. And I'm going to give you his number. Okay? Class, I would like you to call. This is corporate headquarters, General Electric. And I guess maybe the question is really simple. What are you guys going to do about this radiation?
Yeah, and
You're killing us.
plutonium rods that are all sitting out exposed.
Right. You guys built it. What are you going to do about it? I want to know. And then what you do is you get that information and you pass it to everybody you know. Here's the number. You ready? 1-203-373-2211. That's 203-373-2211. One more time. 203-373-2211. That is corporate headquarters in Connecticut. General Electric, corporate headquarters. The CEO's name is Jeffrey Immelt, I-M-M-E-L-T. His extension is 2211. So, 203-373-2211. He's the guy you want to talk to.
That's a very powerful numerological number, by the way. 2211, that's as heavy duty as you get, like 666. 2211 is a very heavy-duty numerological number.
Tell us the significance, Rick.
Well, it's the number for Christ, 11 and 22.
Okay. Class,
and that's from the Book of Formation, the Sephirah, one of the Bibles in the old tradition.
So, class,
you have heard it related sound to numbers. It's like numerology or gematria is what it was called. And 2211 is about as significant as you get for a number. I'd like to have that from my address.
Rick, so we've given out the telephone number for General Electric, 203-373-2211. Ask for Jeffrey Immelt. He's the CEO. That's your homework. Tell everybody you know. Rick, I think we started something. What do you think?
I don't know. Good luck with that, Vincent. I'm just here to start the fires and keep the fires burning.
And stir in the pot. Hey, Rick, it's always good being on the air with you. Thanks so much. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. Honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you. Tell all your friends and family about this podcast. USAPrepares.com. They can download it for free. See you tomorrow.